My first year at university started off with an unsettling experience. After settling into my dorm and saying goodbye to my family, my new roommate finally arrived. From the moment we met, it was clear he had no social skills whatsoever. I introduced myself, extending a handshake, but he just stared at my hand blankly before giving me the weakest grip imaginable. He didn't even offer his name until I asked, "Dale." Small talk was impossible. He responded in monosyllables, occasionally forcing an awkward laugh. Within minutes, we were both silently glued to our laptops. Frustrated, I decided to request a roommate change. The other students on my floor seemed normal, at least. That night, after exploring campus, I returned to find Dale exactly where I'd left him. I greeted him. No response. Around 9:30, I turned off my lamp and tried to sleep, but he stayed on his laptop until 3 a.m. When he finally shut it, I drifted off, only to wake up an hour later. Moonlight streamed through the open blinds, illuminating Dale sitting on his bed, staring at me. I bolted upright. "What the hell are you doing?" he whispered. "Sorry," and lay back down. The next morning, he was already gone. The first time I'd seen him leave. It was orientation day, and as my group passed the campus gardens, I overheard students whispering. There was Dale, crouched in the dirt behind bushes, rubbing a tree's bark. I admitted he was my roommate, and we all laughed nervously. Those two students became my first friends. Later, I learned I'd been reassigned a new roommate. Things were looking up. That night, I returned to find Dale sitting in the dark, facing the door. My laptop, which I'd left unlocked, had every email and folder opened. When I accused him of snooping, he shouted, "No!" before I even finished my question. As I got ready for bed, I noticed my clothes had been disturbed. Then, in the middle of the night, I woke to the sound of a zipper. Dale was rifling through my bag. I flipped on the light. "What are you doing?" he stammered. "I think you have my toothbrush." The next day, I moved into my new dorm. My new roommate was quiet but normal. That Sunday night, as we settled in, I woke to a strange clicking noise. It was coming from the door. Peering through the peephole, I saw someone's scalp. They were jiggling the knob. Campus police arrived within minutes. They cuffed Dale outside my door. Turns out, he'd been trying to break in. I never saw him again. Years later, while hanging out with friends by the campus lake, we heard rustling in the woods. At first, we laughed it off, until a branch was hurled into our fire. Another hit my friend in the face. We bolted, but whoever was out there chased us to the road, pacing until we lost sight of them. Another time, at a rundown frat party, a stranger handed me a suspicious drink. Minutes later, I blacked out, waking in a dark room. I heard a plastic bag crinkle from the closet before escaping. Later, in my secluded dorm, I was haunted by late-night knocking. No one ever answered. One night, I chased a figure into the bathroom, only to find empty boots and eerie laughter. College was supposed to be fun, but some memories still send chills down my spine. The knocking stopped after that semester, but I never fully shook the feeling of being watched. Even after moving to a different dorm, I'd sometimes wake up in the middle of the night, convinced I heard footsteps outside my door. My friends joked that I was paranoid, but I couldn't shake the memory of those boots, just sitting there, waiting, with no one inside them. A few months later, I overheard a rumor about a former student who had been expelled for stalking his roommate. No one knew the details, but the story matched Dale's behavior. Obsessive, invasive, just off. Some said he'd been caught sneaking into other students' rooms, stealing personal items. Others claimed he'd been found wandering the woods at night, muttering to himself. I never confirmed if it was him, but sometimes, when I walked past the nature preserve after dark, I'd catch myself glancing over my shoulder, half expecting to see a shadow moving between the trees. College was supposed to be about freedom, new friends, and late-night adventures. And for the most part it was. But those unsettling moments... Dale's empty. The stare, the unseen figure in the woods, the laughter in the dark, stuck with me long after graduation. Even now, years later, I still lock my doors twice, just in case. Years later, I ran into an old classmate at a reunion who'd worked in the campus security office. Over drinks, he told me something that made my blood run cold. After Dale was expelled, they'd searched his dorm room. Under his bed, they found a box filled with random objects, a hairbrush, notebooks, a hoodie, all stolen from other students. But what disturbed them most was a collection of Polaroids. Dozens of them. Most were candid shots of students walking to class or hanging out in common areas. But some were taken at night, through slightly open dorm room doors, their occupants asleep. The last photo in the stack was of me. It was taken the night before I switched rooms. I was sprawled on my bed, dead asleep, the blanket half kicked off. The timestamp showed 3:17 a.m., right around the time I'd woken to find him staring at me. My friend said campus police had turned everything over to mental health services, and Dale had been sent for evaluation. No one knew what happened to him after that. I finished my drink in one gulp, suddenly hyper-aware of the crowded bar around us. That night, back in my hotel room, I checked the locks 3 times before bed. Some ghosts don't stay buried, and some people, well, you never really know if they're gone for good. The reunion left me rattled, but life moved on. That is, until last month when I received a padded envelope in the mail with no return address. Inside was a single Polaroid, a recent photo of my apartment building taken at night, my bedroom window circled in red marker. My hands shook as I turned it over. Scrawled on the back in familiar, cramped handwriting were 2 words: "Missed you." I called the police, but without a sender or explicit threat, there wasn't much they could do. The detective did confirm one chilling detail. The photo paper was discontinued in 2003, the exact brand used in those campus Polaroids. Now, I keep my blinds closed. I've installed extra locks and a security system. Sometimes at 3 a.m., I'll jolt awake, certain I hear that same faint knocking at my door. The strangest part? When I logged into the alumni directory last week to warn old classmates, Dale's profile was gone, completely scrabbed, like he never existed. But he does. And I think he's been waiting. I started sleeping with a baseball bat beside my bed after that envelope arrived. Every creak of the floorboards, every distant car door slam had me reaching for it in the dark. My friends said I was overreacting, but they hadn't seen what I'd seen, hadn't felt that cold, crawling dread when they realized someone had been watching them sleep. Then, last Tuesday, my neighbor knocked on my door holding a small wrapped package. This was left in our lobby. She said, "No postage, just your name." The box was light, too light. I set it on my kitchen counter and stared at it for a full 10 minutes before working up the nerve to open it. Inside, nestled in crumpled newspaper, was a single key. An old dorm key. The kind we used freshman year. Taped to it was a yellowed slip of paper with a room number. My old room number and a date written beneath it. The anniversary of the night I'd caught Dale trying to break into my new dorm. I called the detective again. This time he took it seriously. They traced the newspaper. It was from a 2002 local paper, the kind they used to stock in campus common areas. That's when I decided to leave town for a while. I'm writing this from a roadside motel 3 states away, the baseball bat on the nightstand, the chain lock fastened. I don't know how he found me. I don't know what he wants, but I do know one thing. He's not done. And neither am I. The motel room's AC unit rattled like a dying engine, but I barely noticed. My laptop glowed in the dark as I scoured old campus forums, searching for any trace of Dale. That's when I found it. A decade-old thread titled, "Night Watchman Fired for Stalking Students." The grainy security photo stopped my breath. There he was. Older, heavier, but unmistakable. Dale, wearing a maintenance uniform, caught peering into a dorm window at 2 a.m. The post said he'd been working under a fake name for 6 months before someone recognized him. My fingers flew across the keyboard, digging deeper. A follow-up article mentioned he'd vanished before police could question him. The date? 1 week after my graduation. a notification popped up. A new email from an unknown sender. Just 2 lines. You always were the curious one, but you're asking the wrong questions. The attached image loaded slowly. A current photo of my empty motel room, taken from outside the window. I whirled around. The curtains swayed slightly, as if someone had just let them fall back into place. The baseball bat was in my hands before I realized I'd moved. Game on, Dale. The curtains still swayed when I yanked them open. Nothing but a dark parking lot and the hum of distant highway traffic. But on the windowsill, barely visible in the dim light, was a smudged handprint, still damp. My phone buzzed with another email. This time, a video attachment. The footage showed my own motel room door from the outside hallway, timestamped just 3 minutes ago. In the corner of the frame, a shadow moved. Someone stepping just out of view. Then came the knocking. Not at my window, at my door. 3 slow, deliberate raps. The same rhythm from my dorm all those years ago. The bat felt slick in my sweaty grip as I crept forward. Through the peephole, the hallway appeared empty. But as I watched, a folded slip of paper slid beneath the door. It was a photocopy of my freshman ID photo, the edges yellowed with age. Someone had drawn a crude smile over my face in red ink. At the bottom, in that same cramped handwriting, "Let's talk face to face. You have 5 minutes before I lose patience." The AC unit clicked off. In the sudden silence, I heard the faint creak of someone shifting their weight right outside my door. I dialed 911 with shaking fingers, then grabbed the bat tighter. This ends tonight, one way or another. The 911 operator's calm voice barely registered as I pressed my back against the wall beside the door. Every muscle in my body was coiled tight. The baseball bat raised like a lifeline. The knocking came again, harder this time, making the cheap motel door rattle in its frame, then silence. A full minute passed, then another. I risked glancing through the peephole again. The hallway was empty, no shadow, no movement. Just that single sheet of paper lying on the stained carpet. I waited until I heard sirens in the distance before unlocking the door and snatching the note inside. The moment I touched it, my phone buzzed again. Another email. Disappointing. I thought you were braver than this. Attached was a photo taken from across the parking lot, me, framed in the motel room doorway, bat in hand. The timestamp read, 30 seconds ago. Police lights flashed through the curtains as cruisers pulled in. I should have felt relief. But all I could think about was how easily he'd slipped away again. How he'd been close enough to take that photo and vanish before the cops arrived. The officers took my statement, dusted for prints, promised extra patrols. But we all knew the truth. Dale wasn't done playing. As they left, one cop hesitated at the door. "You should know. We found something in the parking lot." He held up an evidence bag. Inside was a single, weathered Polaroid, a photo of my old dorm room door, the number scratched out with a key. Just like the one he'd mailed me, written on the back in fresh ink. "Next time, I won't knock." I checked out before sunrise. This isn't over, but neither am I. The highway stretched endlessly before me, dawn just beginning to bleed across the horizon. I drove with no destination in mind, just putting miles between me and that motel. My phone sat silent in the passenger seat. No new emails, no taunting messages. The quiet should have been comforting. It wasn't. At a gas station outside Reno, I bought a burner phone and a stale coffee. As I stood by my car, scrolling through old news articles on Dale, a shadow fell across my screen. "Long night?" The clerk, an older man with tired eyes, nodded at my shaking hands. I forced a smile. You could say that." He leaned closer, voice dropping. "You know, a guy came in earlier asking about someone who matched your description. Said he was an old friend." My blood turned to ice. "What did he look like?" The clerk shrugged. Average? Quiet? Kept his hands in his pockets the whole time. He paused. Oh? And he paid in cash. Left something behind, too. From under the counter, he slid out a Polaroid. It was a photo of this very gas station, taken minutes ago. My rental car was visible in the frame, and standing beside it, barely out of focus, was a figure in a hoodie. One hand raised in a slow, mocking wave. The clerk frowned as I bolted outside, bat in hand. The parking lot was empty. The highway stretched on, indifferent. But taped to my driver's side window was a fresh note. Running just makes it more fun. I peeled out of there so fast the tires screamed. This isn't a game anymore. It's a hunt, and I refuse to be prey. The desert highway burned under the midday sun as I sped toward the nearest town, my rearview mirror constantly checking for pursuers. That's when the burner phone rang. A number I didn't recognize. I answered with silence. A familiar voice chuckled. You always were predictable with your escape routes. Dale's tone was calm, almost amused. I knew you'd head for the desert. Isolated. Easy to disappear. My knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. What do... Yo, you want? Same as always, he said. To watch. A pause. Turn around. In my side mirror, a black sedan crested the horizon behind me. It matched my speed exactly. The call disconnected. A text followed. Next exit. Let's talk face-to-face at the diner, or keep running. I do love the chase. The exit sign loomed ahead, a lone truck-stop diner shimmering in the heat. I had two choices: finally confront him, or spend the rest of my life looking over my shoulder. I signaled and took the exit. Time to end this. The diner's bell jingled as I stepped inside, bat concealed in my jacket. The place was nearly empty, just a trucker at the counter and an elderly couple in a booth. No sign of Dale. Then my burner phone buzzed. Booth in back. Come alone. I moved slowly, fingers tightening around the bat. The rear booth was shadowed, the figure there facing the wall. As I got closer, the person turned. A stranger blinked up at me. Can I help you? My phone lit up again. Suck. Then a security feed appeared, showing my motel room from last night. Dale's voice crackled through the speakers. You should have checked the vents. The screen changed to a new feed. Real-time footage of my car in the parking lot. The trunk was opening on its own. Something inside moved. The diner's power went out. In the darkness, my phone's screen glowed one last time. Tag, you're it. The trunk slammed shut as I ran outside. This ends now. The desert sun beat down as I approached my car, bat raised. The trunk lid trembled, slightly. With one swift motion, I hooked the bat under the latch and flung it open. Ready to swing? Empty, except for a single Polaroid taped to the inside. It showed Dale standing in my abandoned motel room, holding today's newspaper. The message scrawled beneath made my stomach drop. While you were chasing ghosts, I was home. You left your laptop unlocked again. My real phone suddenly chimed in my pocket, a security alert from my apartment. Motion detected. Camera feed showed my front door slowly swinging open. Dale had been playing me the whole time. The hunt wasn't out here in the desert. It was waiting for me back where it all began. I turned the key so hard it almost snapped. Time to go home and finish this for good. The highway blurred as I pushed the speed limit, my mind racing faster than the engine. Every mile marker was a countdown, not just to confrontation, but to answers. Why me? Why now? The questions burned hotter than the desert behind me. As the city skyline emerged on the horizon, my phone lit up one final time. No taunts, no games, just an address, my own apartment building, and two words. Welcome back. I tightened my grip on the wheel. No more running, no more fear. Tonight, one of us doesn't walk away.